Hey guys, welcome to Unbound Wisdom. Today's topic is one that has been heavily inspired by things that I've been noticing in my friend circle, as well as people just in general in the collective. And that is the death and rebirth cycle that many of us seem to be going through right now. I believe that there was a massive shift in energy that came with the eclipse, which was the first part of December. And what I'm seeing happening for people is a shedding of things that no longer serve them, which could be material things, maybe getting rid of a job that was no longer a good fit for them, maybe leaving a relationship that was not a good fit for them. Also, it could be emotional things, like a purging of these deeper emotions that seem to have come out of nowhere. I think the eclipse was very difficult emotionally for a lot of people, especially those sensitive to energy. And my sense is that at this point, if we haven't taken steps to purge a lot of this stuff on our own already, the universe is bringing it to us to purge now, letting go of the things that aren't good for our highest path, letting go of the things that might be holding us back. An opportunity to purge lower density emotions that we have from maybe stuffed down or stored either from this lifetime or from past incarnations. I really believe that this is a time where we are being forced to do this, to transmute all of that, to shed our skin. So you think about a snake shedding its skin, taking off the old that doesn't serve anymore, to reveal below the surface what's meant to be there, right? And my sense is that this eclipse that we just went through is going to usher in those energies, which will, in my opinion, continue through December. And how it feels to me is that it's setting the stage for the solstice, which will happen at the end of December. And beyond that, I really believe that it is setting the stage for the nodal shift, which is to come in mid-January. For those that don't know, the nodes are the 2 points where the moon's path crosses the ecliptic of the sun and the earth. And this is something that shifts for us every 18 and a half months or so, thereabout. So in mid-January, we will be shifting from the Sagittarius node that we've been on to Sagittarius Gemini, North Node, South Node, to North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio. So anyone that's not super into astrology might be like, why does that matter? I think this has a huge effect on the energy of the collective, because it will be the energies that are going to be given to us are going to give us the opportunities to balance those two polarities between Scorpio and Taurus. And it also, when the nodes shift, it sets up what the eclipses are going to be like for that 18-month period. So now all of the eclipses that we will have for the next 18 and a half months will be either in Taurus or will be in Scorpio. And I think we got a taste of what that's going to be like this past eclipse that we just went through, 1st of December. I think that we are going to be asked to balance between the grounded nature of Taurus, centered in our own knowing, other great, practical, resourceful, reliable, patient, trust. All of these are the exalted versions of Taurus. And we're going to be asked to balance that with Scorpio energy, which has a lot to do with healing, but also has a lot to do with shadow, with looking deep into the shadows, with being able to face them without being hung up by them, without drowning in them, right? I think the name of the game for us for the next 18 and a half months, especially those that are very aware, those that are empaths or sensitive to energy, we're going to continually be given these lessons between seeing the shadow side, seeing what do we need to purge from our life, whether it's emotionally or on a physical level, and how can we be grounded? How can we be secure in our own inner knowing? How can we return back to our own individual divine state, right? So the name of the game, I believe, is not going to be avoiding these situations, which are really difficult to go through on an emotional level. But the name of the game is going to be how quickly can we return to center. So the positive, well, the aspects of Taurus or of Scorpio that we're going to be noticing are transformation, understanding and embracing our nuances, healing, the ability to dig deep into something, to understand it on a deeper level, emotional depth, and the psyche, being able to understand the deeper levels of our human psyche. And the trick is going to be, how do we not stay stuck in the digging, right? In those lower vibrational emotions that are going to come up. How can we feel them, work through those emotions, understand them, understand the lesson that's to be learned, and then transmute it, moving back to center, back to groundedness, back to our own individual divinity, right? So I think that it's going to be a really incredible shift in energies, but it's going to be really important that we know how to work with them, right? Because we're going to be given the chance to balance out our light and our shadow. And these chances are going to be given to us for the next 18 months, whether we want them or not, right? Not staying stuck in the shadows, but allowing ourselves to look at them, but being very committed to balancing out those shadows with light. We're going to be given the chance to understand lessons that revolve around the theme of give and take, of contributing and then also being given contributions in return, right? The ability to develop our resourcefulness is going to be a huge theme as well, I believe. And transformation, if we're willing to look at the shadows and not stay stuck in them. So I felt like it was really important for me to do this video because I sense that these energies are here and we're going to be asked to ride some pretty hard waves probably in the next year and a half on individual and collective level. But I wanted to give some hints and some tricks that I think will be helpful to you in navigating these energies. If you had a sense of what the past eclipse did for you, so like the first week in December, if you can look back on that and realize any themes that came up for you, it might be a good indication of what you might expect in the next year and a half. So just thinking about that, thinking about how did you handle those difficult emotions that came up? How did you, for myself, I had a really amazing lesson in a teacher that I had followed for many years. It was revealed to me that her teachings were no longer in alignment with who I am now and where I'm going. So it was difficult for me because it was kind of letting go of something that no longer served me. But at the same time, it was really hard because I had recognized that I had an attachment, right? To her as a person, because she's a great person, but I just had to let go of my attachment to her as a teacher, right? That was a really amazing lesson for me that happened right at the eclipse, and somewhat of a death and rebirth cycle, which is probably an indication of what's going to happen for the next 18 months for us, a death and a rebirth in some way, shape, or form. So I have some information that I was given from the records, from my own records, and I just wanted to share it with you. The death and rebirth cycle. This is a process of shedding our skin, so to speak, a process of clearing out that which is no longer in alignment with our highest calling. The process is completely necessary for us to embody more of our own soul essence, to anchor more light, and to evolve into a higher version of ourselves. It is difficult while we are in the process because it involves fully experiencing these denser emotions, the more difficult emotions, in order to transmute them. So this, like, we must not hide from these emotions and we must not stuff them down. We must feel them and acknowledge them, work through them, because that's how the transmuting is going to happen. Transmutation. Yeah, I'll say that. That's how transmutation will happen. Oftentimes, people will resist this because it's painful. And by so doing, they deny themselves the opportunity for expansion. So if we resist it and we, refuse to feel through the emotion and we stuff it back down, that doesn't help our expansion at all. In fact, it's probably holding us back. There's also a danger, or a potential danger, for staying stuck in the emotions or identifying with them. So especially with that Scorpio South node, it would be very possible that people get stuck in the darkness, in depression, in addictive behaviors, in patterns of disassociation or escapism. There is a danger for that, especially in the next 18 months, because the energies are ripe for that. So just having that awareness and realizing, you might be going through something, but know that you're going through it. It's not forever. Do not allow yourself to be stuck in it, but allow yourself to feel it in order to transmute it. Sorry, that was me, not the records. Now back to the records. This can also serve as a detriment because the skin doesn't get completely shed at that point. And the person can then end up becoming stuck in the shadows, like depression, disassociation, or pain. The name of the game truly will be to allow ourselves to move through the lessons and these more dense emotional states without staying stuck in them or becoming them, right? Not becoming a depressed person, not labeling ourselves as such, or an anxious person, or, using patterns of escapism to get to, to leave your life, basically, right? Definitely addictive behaviors would be something that we could be on the watch out for. So I had some suggestions that I wanted to share with you as well. When you go through these patterns, because it's very likely that you will in the next year and a half or so, very importantly, first have compassion for yourself and choose to see yourself not as a victim, right? See this as an opportunity for powerful transformation. So instead of seeing yourself as a victim, see yourself as a powerful transmuter of these darker energies, because that is what you are. And that is what you're being asked to do right now, because not only are you raising your own vibration by doing so, but you're also raising the vibration of the collective by transmuting all these shadows. These circumstances are going to provide you lessons, and your responsibility is to recognize the lesson or in whatever event is happening or occurrence is happening. It's so important to recognize the lesson that is being shown to you. So for myself, in the example with my teacher that I was telling you about, I recognized that I was no longer in alignment with what she was teaching, but I recognized that it was an opportunity for me to move to a different teacher or become my own teacher. That was the gift that was given to me. It just gave me more chance, more authorization, let's say, to be my own teacher. And that was something I desperately needed at that point. So recognizing the lesson is huge, and then giving ourselves permission to acutely feel the emotion that comes with it. Could be sadness, could be grief, could be confusion, could be heartache, whatever it may be. Allow yourself permission to feel it, to move through it. Don't hide from it. And also know that this will be temporary. This isn't something that's going to be there forever. You might feel this wave of emotion as you're learning your lesson. Learning your lesson, and I don't mean that in like a negative way, but in a very positive way, because you are learning and growing through this experience. So as you are learning and growing, know that the emotions that you're feeling, the denser, darker, more difficult emotions, they're going to be temporary. It is not going to be forever. Probably move through you in a couple days, especially if you are aware of what's going on. And then I have a few more suggestions. And if you employ those, then you'll be able to move through these quicker, these scenarios. For the most part, as soon as we're able to label the lesson, the pain of the emotion goes away or becomes ameliorated, right? So once you're like, oh, I think this is a lesson in discernment, whatever lesson is. We can use my teacher example again. That was definitely a lesson in discernment for me. And it was a lesson in me taking back my own power, right? So once I was able to label that lesson, the confusion that went around it went away. The regret that I might have felt or any other lower vibrational emotion went away once I labeled that lesson for me. My third suggestion would be to have a spiritual first aid kit handy. And I call this my spiritual first aid kit. This is going to be very personal for each of you. You'll have your own. And I highly recommend that when you are in a good spot, you're in a happy place, you're feeling good about life, that you come up with this first aid kit. And in it, you're going to place 3 things, at least 3. Let's not limit ourselves, but at least 3. 3 things that you know will raise your vibration. It will bring light into your life. It will clear out density. It will clear your energy field. Whatever it may be, these are 3 things that you will put in your toolkit. And then when you're starting to feel low, you'll pull that toolkit out. And, in the depths, sometimes in the depths of despair, it's difficult to pull the toolkit out because that's the last thing you want to do. Right? You're feeling pretty low and you don't even, for myself, I don't even want to deal with it. But in those instances, I have this toolkit and I make myself do it. I do. I say, nope, you're doing this today. You have to. And then instantly it does pull me out of that funk for the most part, right? Especially if I've understood what lesson is there for me to learn in all of this. But the spiritual toolkit's going to be different for each of you. It could be, toolkit, I guess. I also call it first aid kit. Let's call it that. It could be for me. I have some Vedic mantras that I love, and they're Vedic chants. I put them on repeat 108 times on repeat, and I do the chant as long as I possibly can. And sometimes I can't make it all 108 because I get tired or whatever. But I still listen to it and and let that energy enter into my body. And it brings so much light back into my body. I can literally feel my frequency rising. And I know that works for me. That's the first thing that I do. Second thing that I do, I love salt baths. And I know I've talked about this with you guys before, but I would make myself a salt bath. And I love using essential oils in my salt bath, especially lavender, eucalyptus. Those are some of my favorite ones. But that's me, rose. Rose is amazing as well for myself. Taking a salt bath does have an incredible effect on our energy body. Plus it's relaxing, which is very nice and beneficial for our nervous system. So that is something that I would do. The second thing that I would do. The third thing that I always would do would be sitting in meditation with my guides. So either connecting with my guides or my higher self. And even if I don't feel like asking questions or anything like that, I make that connection and I just describe to them exactly how I'm feeling. And I ask for them to hold me. I ask for them to give me positive energy. I ask for them to help to clear any density that I have or transmute anything that's going on with me that they could see energetically. And I find that so beneficial because even if I'm not getting like clear answers back, I still sit in the frequency of their love and it really draws me back, pulls me out of those funks. So those are the 3 things that are in my first aid kit. And I do them without fail. If I'm going through a time where I'm spiraling a little bit or I'm experiencing some of these death and rebirth cycles like we might be in the next 18 months. But I just encourage you to either, if you like mine, please use them. But I also encourage you to come up with your own, could be walks in nature, huge. Could be even time spent with a really good friend that just lifts you up. Whatever you can rely on to lift your spirits, raise your frequency, and then set that intention for yourself that you're going to use it no matter what when you're starting to feel down. So the fourth suggestion that I have is once these emotions have been processed, any sadness, grief, confusion, any of the lower densities that we don't want to feel, but we must. Once they've been processed and you have acknowledged the lesson, see if you can find gratitude for the situation and for the growth that it has afforded you. So we can go back to my lesson that I learned at the 1st of December. I can look back on that situation now, and although it was difficult at the time, I now look back on it with a lot of gratitude because it did provide so much personal growth for me. I learned a lot about myself, and I also learned a lot about my path going forward. So I personally found a lot of gratitude for the situation, although it wasn't fun at the time. I now have so much gratitude for it. I also would say ask if there's any forgiveness that might be appropriate at that time for that situation. It depends on what the situation is. Like, did you have a very difficult fight with somebody? Did you, are you cutting ties in a relationship? Like, that is so difficult. And I see that happening for the next 18 months. Probably on a large scale. Yes, probably. And in that instance, can you find forgiveness for the person that you're no longer in alignment with, that's going to be exiting your life? Can you find forgiveness? Because I feel like that's going to be huge. If there is any forgiveness that you can have, if you can really work towards that, that will be really massive in healing the situation for you. I wanted to read to you something that I had come up with about forgiveness and the power of it. One moment here. Okay. Forgiveness is rooted in the emotion of love for both he or she whom you are forgiving, as well as for yourself. For forgiveness unburdens both the bearer as well as the recipient of that unseen weight which they carry for whatever had occurred. Forgiveness is freedom. Forgiveness is retrieving those pieces of yourself that have been lost along the way. And forgiveness is returning to wholeness. It is like a final layer of salve necessary to truly heal the original wound. So that's something that I would encourage you, if the situation requires any forgiveness, that would be something that you could really work on to heal, to balance out the polarities of the axis that we're talking about, the Scorpio Taurus axis. If you could find genuine forgiveness for that person or the situation, that is really going to balance out that polarity, and I think springboard you forward quite significantly on the evolution of your soul. And then the final suggestion that I would have as you go through these death and rebirth cycles is to acknowledge the power you possess. Power to recognize the lesson, to be aware, to recognize the lesson, to grow from it, and to transmute all of the density in the meantime. So the acknowledgement of how truly powerful you are, that really will complete the death and rebirth cycle. That's where the rebirth comes in, doesn't it? In that part. So those 5 suggestions are what I wanted to impart you with in case you're going through some of these cycles in the next little bit. Each of these lessons that we will be presented with over the next year will allow us to do our part in raising the frequency of the collective. The more density we clear from ourselves, the more we will raise the consciousness of not only ourselves, but humanity in general. And I wanted to leave you with that. The final thing that I would say on this topic is, with everything that I teach, honestly, use your discernment. So if something is coming up for you, really feel into it and decide for yourself, is this one of those death and rebirth cycles like Leah talked about? Because it will be up to you to decide if that is the case for yourself. Every single thing that I teach, I really, really, really encourage you to feel into it and to see if it's true for you, not just to accept it because I said it, But I do see that as a major theme for the next year and a half. And I hope that some of those suggestions will help you in case that is what you are going through as well. As always, I am so grateful that you are here today And if there's anything at all that I can do for you, please reach out. I am always available. Until next time.